I guess the last point, as far as the interest in student housing, even during 2020, when a lot of these institutions weren't allowing the students to come back to school, the sophomore, junior, and senior housing on average across the nation was about 94% occupied, which is a clear indication that I don't want to be stuck home with mom and dad during this. I'm going to go back to school even if I'm on the computer. And it just makes sense. You're becoming an adult. You really want your independence, and they're willing to pay for it. So I think that college is not going anywhere. I think that the technology is going to aid the college. I don't know if you're fully going to see college go online. They still want to go away. And I think there's a lot of potential for investors who can deliver a really quality, third-party apartment building to students.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwayne Clark.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. This is your host, Dwayne Clark. And today we have Nick Simpson. Nick is the founder and CEO of Simpson Building Enterprises. Simpson Building Enterprises specializes in existing multifamily as well as new ground-up development. Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. One thing I said, learning about your background, we haven't had many like developers on the show. So it's always good to kind of hear about kind of the latest trends, what you're seeing, boots on the ground. I understand you're in the Maryland market, but looking at other markets as well. But before we kick things off, would you mind talking about how you got started in real estate, what your current focus is?
Sure. I got started with one single family house and started renting out to college students roughly 8 years ago, and did a lot of hands-on work, and then ended up selling that house through a 1031, rolled it up with other properties into larger projects, and slowly but surely gotten into larger scale multifamily and student housing projects. And currently we're working on a 300-bed, 86-unit apartment building in downtown Salisbury.
Wow. And as far as kind of like development, is that something that you just happened to kind of stumble in as you kind of went through your career, from going from one project to the next, or is it something like the opportunity just popped up and you say, let's give it a try?
Yeah, we've always been really construction heavy throughout the entire time I've been investing in real estate. I've always found that extreme value add has been the area where we have done the best. So we typically buy quite distressed assets, do a lot of construction. So we weren't really afraid of new construction, and we started doing just in the beginning, we were just doing single family new construction, and then moved into commercial ground up, and now have partnered with some really top rate people who know the construction industry very well, and bring a lot of that expertise so that we're able to take on something that's much larger. So it's always been a part of our business model to do that value add, but I don't know if it's for everybody. I think that's something you got to really have a passion for, and it just depends. And obviously there's a little bit of market timing to it. So, we're of course not married to doing to development if it doesn't make sense as far as market timing.
And I know that's something you had mentioned, some of your projects that are in the state of Maryland. Is that kind of your market focus? Or are you guys looking at other markets? I know development, you kind of know the area very well. They like to do that. Is that something that you guys currently focusing on? Or are you guys also looking at other markets as well?
Yeah, we're focused in Maryland for right now, especially when it comes to development. What you just said there is critical. If you don't know your market, and I mean like down to like the politicians in the area and the zoning code in the area, and even just your building inspectors, if you don't have a kind of a rapport with those people, it can go very difficult. We've learned our lesson, and when we've figured we could just jump over to the next market and make it happen, but there's a lot of contacts you need to make a development happen. And we're really focused, and we know the Salisbury, Maryland market extremely well. We're very well connected here. When we're doing a reposition asset where it's much more, surface level repainting, changing countertops and stuff, that's where we start to branch out a little bit. You don't need to know quite as, you don't need to have quite as close relationships with the people in those markets, but it's definitely good for us to stay in our focused zone. We don't want to get too spread too quickly. We will continue to expand our horizons, but we would like to keep our quick focused growth here for a while.
And as far as kind of like the overall picture of the state of Maryland, like how is it from a person looking from the outside in, economically, opportunities there? What's the state looking like?
We've got two major cities, Baltimore and DC, both very different. DC's really kind of that class A. It's one of those cities that's going to attract really the best of the best. And it's somewhat recession proof. And that just because of the federal, that being because of the federal government. As far as Baltimore, you have a much different political scene. And in a lot of cases, you're going to find investors are either very for it and they see the potential, or they're very frustrated and it's been the same way, kind of just chugging along for a while. So those two major cities, I think those are the ones that people most frequently associate with Maryland. But there's a lot of other really quality markets in the Maryland area: Frederick, Ellicott City, and then coming over to the Eastern Shore, we're focused in Salisbury, the largest city on the Eastern Shore, which is near like Ocean City and the water. And we attract a lot of the college students at Salisbury University, but we get a lot of the retired folks from the other side of the bridge as they are looking for a little bit more of that coastal lifestyle without getting too far away from their base.
Awesome. And then can you kind of talk about, well, we'll jump into opportunity zones. And I had another question regarding student housing, but opportunity zones, it's like so much information that's coming out there. I know that there's so many different pockets all around the country that you can invest. Can you kind of talk for people who are not familiar with that type of investing? And then how are you guys been able to kind of utilize that for your investment strategy?
Opportunity zones have a lot of unknowns still involved with them. And as we've gone through the process of using opportunity zones, I think the most important thing to know, and it's been said before, this is nothing new, it's just that it does not make the investment. The tax incentives just are a bonus. So you have to still have the same fundamentals of a quality investment that you would look for anywhere else. This is just going to add a little sprinkle on top, or maybe give you the incentive to maybe take the money outside of a top market, maybe go to a little bit more of a tertiary market. But the deal fundamentals have to be there. As far as what we're experiencing in the political scene, a lot of people aren't really sure with the new president whether or not he's going to keep opportunity zones, whether or not opportunity zones are just kind of going to be grandfathered in. There's just a lot of unknowns for investors right now. So it kind of goes back to that original point. You got to make sure those deal fundamentals are there. So if you just happen to find an investment and it also is in the opportunity zone, I definitely think the benefits are useful. You can shelter a lot of your capital gains. The asset can be fully depreciated. There's no depreciation recapture on the end when you go and sell the asset. And there's just a lot of potential upsides as far as boosting, kind of giving a little bit of juice to the returns. But again, it's something that investors really should take, a little bit of caution. I definitely recommend really quality attorneys. There's not really a cheap way to get one done. Usually I think the documents can range from, $25,000 to, $45,000, somewhere in that range for getting the documents completed and making sure that they're really done. And that's on a decently large deal, but typically investors who have that kind of capital gains to shelter are not going to be jumping in to an opportunity zone. So, it's tough. The opportunity zones, just we thought that they were going to be utilized a lot more than they are. And I think there's still a lot of quality investments out there, but I think investors are still looking for a little bit more certainty with them before they kind of go gung ho.
Yeah, I've been hearing the same exact thing. I've been asking investors that have been kind of utilizing that, and then just kind of waiting for more guidance. As we hopefully depending on, like I said, the administration and, getting more information to see if it's more clear for people to kind of utilize that even further. Jumping
Exactly.
next into student housing, that you guys have a tremendous amount of experience, and I know that you guys had a large investment development that you guys did. Can you kind of talk about overall picture of the student housing market, how it is now currently, and where you see it heading into 2021?
Well, 2020 was probably the biggest ass kicking to the industry in a long time. And it was tested pretty well. I think overall, the fundamentals of the industry are going to stay somewhat similar, but investments will be focused on markets that have top universities that they really think are going to be an ongoing concern. So it's going to be with state colleges or colleges that are well priced. I think that's going to be a very key point in the market with
Mm,
student loans being such an issue. So when we look at like Salisbury University, it's very well priced, and it's a part of the University of Maryland system. They've never let a college go. They never let a college fail. They've always made sure that the funding is there for the college, and it's a growing institution. Those are the type of boxes that I think investors have to check as far as the school that they're looking for. But as far as the asset that they're actually looking at, we saw that the assets with a bed to bath parity, or just every single bedroom has their own bathroom, those are the ones that are performing the best, especially during COVID. Those are the ones that are leasing up faster and really kind of keeping that occupancy. The other side of the student housing industry is I think you're going to see trends towards like no carpets in the bedrooms. You're going to see a lot more cleaning stations. You're going to see
mm,
maybe a little bit more outdoor space. They're going to focus on trying to, like, the forward thinking that comes with potentially having this happen again. And I guess the last point, as far as the interest in student housing, even during 2020, when a lot of these institutions weren't allowing the students to come back to school, the sophomore, junior, and senior housing on average across the nation was about 94% occupied, which is a clear indication that I don't want to be stuck home with mom and dad during this. I'm going to go back to school even if I'm on the computer. And it just makes sense. You're becoming an adult. You really want your independence, and they're willing to pay for it. So I think that college is not going anywhere. I think that the technology is going to aid the college. I don't know if you're fully going to see college go online. They still want to go away. And I think
mhm.
there's a lot of potential for investors who can deliver a really quality, uh, you know, third party apartment building to students.
And as far as kind of like digging a little bit further, as we've seen the trend of like large office buildings, like in major cities, kind of depleting and stuff because of the shift there. Are you seeing even more as far as kind of repurposing, redesigning, and things like that, as far as kind of those types of buildings moving forward as well?
We've done a little bit of commercial work in the past, and I'm not as fired up about the office space as maybe some other people are. I think the industry as a whole was kind of already suffering, especially like the retail side was already suffering
Hmm.
before, and they were slowly, it's like death by a thousand cuts with the internet. Well,
Exactly. Yeah, I
and
agree.
now COVID hits, and bang, it ripped the band-aid off. I mean, it was, so
Hmm.
I think you're going to see a lot of office space come on the market. There are plenty of investors who see that as an opportunity, and they're throwing billions of dollars at it. But for us, we're kind of staying in the lane of we know what we're good at, and we can compete with people in the industry, and we feel like we offer better products and manage the properties better than others, and we're okay staying in that lane. Maybe there's an opportunity to get some cheap bricks, if you will, from office and repurpose them into apartments, but you got to check the zoning, and there's still a lot of, well, that on that side, we haven't seen investors walk away from their office projects yet at discounted rates that would make sense to turn them into apartments. So
Hmm.
we kind of have to wait for that to kind of flush itself out, and we'll see. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, I was just kind of get your perspective on that as on the development side. So that's just very interesting on your take on that. Just kind of learn a little bit more about you. I know that you're running a company with your team and everything. What's like a typical work day for you? And do you have any special morning routines?
Typical day for me, which I mean, really, I work almost all days during the week. I think it keeps my mind somewhat sharp to do some work almost every day. I always find like, you go on like a vacation, you're kind of like in a fog for a few days as you get back to work. I don't know, it just doesn't keep you sharp. But as far as morning routines, I really like to listen to a book or podcast, or at minimum the news, kind of right as I'm getting up. I usually like to do the Audible, just something to get me, inspired, like thinking about what other people are doing. And that's what I'm doing like every morning. I like to work out, but I've been injured for the past few months, and that's really quite frustrating. I also like to do that in the morning. But yeah, a typical work day, usually I'm starting, kind of up and out of bed about 5:30, and typically to the office between 6:30 and 8, just depending on the day, and how much time I'm, spending on, personal growth stuff with like the books and whatnot. And then I'm usually in the office until I'm done, which could be 6 or it could be midnight. It just really depends.
And as a developer, and like I said, with a company and everything, is any tools and resources that you guys use to help you guys be a little bit more productive during the day?
Yeah, we certainly use like Calendly and, all the little type of kind of assistant type programs that make scheduling a little bit easier and stuff. But we've found that some of the softwares overcomplicate things. I mean, we've looked at really expensive like softwares to try to do underwriting on the deals, and it comes down to it. A lot of the Excel sheets are just as robust as spending a whole bunch of money and having to train your staff on getting them on board. So we try to keep the overhead low, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we built out in Excel that we can repurpose and use. And other than that, we try to keep it lean.
Awesome. And as far as kind of with all your success and like I said, with all the different things that you're involved in, what can you say that you're most grateful for?
Yeah, I gotta say I'm definitely grateful for the investors this year. It's been a bit of a tough year, and the investors that I've worked with, they definitely give me a lot of leash to make sure that we're moving forward. I think they can see that we're giving it everything we can, even during COVID. We're performing and doing well. But I was really pleased by the backing of the people I work with this year. And it's just been, obviously there's been a lot of stresses that you just didn't see as we came into 2020. I almost feel like we all blinked and almost a year has gone by of
exactly
just craziness. And I look forward to 2021 with them, hopefully with more of a stable, normal business environment.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. So how do we get in contact? We'll make sure to have all your show notes in the podcast and the video as well. How do we get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best way is probably through email, nick@simpsonbuilding.com. Quite responsive and look forward to talking to you.
Absolutely. Nick, it was a pleasure to speak with you, learn about the student housing market and the Maryland market. It's always good talking to investors, boots on the ground, and especially on the development side. You can learn so much about that. So I really appreciate you taking the time, during after the holiday season, and of course, heading in towards next year. You all to the best, you and the family, and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Likewise, appreciate the time.
All right, take care, my friend.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwayneLClark.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.